Life Love Lessons for Women of Faith. So you are a woman of faith. You have overcome over and over again. You have testimonies of passing many tests and victory stories of victorious winnings. Then, why are you hypertensive, high-strung, distressed, depressed, anxious, angry, living life but not loving life? Hi, I'm Teacher Hazel. Teaching is my ministry, my career, my life's work. I too am a woman of faith. I have been through the fire, I have been through the flood. Now, my heart's desire is the love dance of God. I am inviting you to listen to Life Love Lessons and talk to me about your learnings from my teachings. Join me on Thursdays at 10 p.m. on my YouTube channel, Abundant Life Mastery at the Call. And let's talk about life love lessons as women of faith. Welcome, and a very wonderful night to each and everyone. Welcome to Life Love Lessons for Women of Faith. And yes, we are on our 6th lesson. It is my pleasure and privilege to welcome each and every one of you to Life Love Lessons for Women of Faith. Those of you who are logged on live and those who will be logged on in the recording. Of course, welcome to the first timers, but please make sure to listen to the lessons that went before. They are available on this same channel. So, welcome all. It is indeed a pleasure to be here with you again. Let us pray. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God sustains us. Wherever we are, God is. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. I thank God for you, and I thank you, all of you, each and every one of you, for being here with me tonight. I am Reverend Dr. Teacher Hazel and Gibbs DePeza, better known as Teacher Hazel. I'm a teacher by profession, a teacher by calling. Teaching is my ministry. I'm also a transformational life coach and a life mastery consultant. And I am a mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother, blessed with 10 stars in my life. I am happy and grateful. I love my life. And Life Love Lessons is intended to encourage you to love your life. So, why am I here? My main intention is to encourage you, women of faith, to answer the call to your God-given purpose. Access the more abundant life Christ promised you and empower you to live a life you love. Because it's available, it's abundant, and he's offering it to be even more abundant. And therefore, don't let it waste. Let us learn how to live a life that we love. He said, I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. So accept the abundant life that is available to you by learning the lessons of life and love. Today, lesson 6, our format will be a little bit different. As promised, we will be considering the issue of truth versus fact and engaging some more of our super senses and looking a little further into what you believe about life and the word. But today we dive right in and make the connections that went before as we go along. Okay? So let's just make one connection now. Remember your affirmation? Say it with me. I am me. I love the me that I am. Yes. And you must say it and mean it and learn to love this beautiful life that God has given you. So let us begin. Truth versus fact. So there are facts and there is truth. The facts are what your physical senses experience by seeing and touching and tasting, hearing, smelling. And then you begin to use your super senses to make sense of what your physical senses experience. Because you use your super senses even if you're not aware of them and you don't know that you're using them. You still use them because they enhance your experience. So the fact is, there's a torrent of water coming down. And this guy is looking at it and keeping his distance, as I would, because I would be scared to go too near to that torrent of water. The fact is, there is a torrent of water. But what is the truth? The truth is that I can stay and be scared, doesn't change the fact, or I can do like the young man and ride the torrent of water and find fun and joy in it. You see? And that's what's true. You see, we have to understand that we can respond to the facts with our truth. We can be afraid, but then why choose fear? Or we can see the good in it and look above the circumstances and respond to them in different ways. So on the one frame, there's a person who's staying far away and looking at this water and wondering, But in the next frame, the young man has chosen to enjoy the water and ride on it. So the truth is, there's always a possibility for fun and enjoyment. So we want to remember as we consider those ideas. Remember, everything is created twice. Next slide, please. Yes. First in the thought, the spirit realm, the dream realm, and then in the physical realm, what we call reality. But we use our super senses to choose how we respond and what we call into being. Because if we don't think about it, we can't do it. If we say we can't do it in our thoughts, then we can't do it physically. If we say we can, then we can and we will. So you choose your imagination, your perception, your reality. So let's look at one of the super senses now, the whole question of perception. Look at the picture. What do you perceive that background is? If you perceive that it's a majestic mountain, then you may consider taking a stroll along the mountain. You may consider taking some pictures there. Yes? But if you perceive that it is a volcano, not just a mountain, but a volcano, then obviously your reaction is going to be different. You're not going to want to go walking and taking pictures because you never know when the volcano will erupt. Your perception is the capacity to evolve and expand the meaning we give to our experiences. So, because we know what happens with volcanoes, if we perceive that that is a volcano, then we will behave differently from if we perceive that it is just a mountain. Perception. Perception is also our capacity to find the seed of good inside everything. You see, what we perceive becomes our reality. And we know that all things work together for good, and that is true. But it is our perception that will determine whether we believe that, whether we accept that. Because there is the situation, it's not a story, it's real life, where fire walked through an area, burnt down a number of houses, and one family, when the news crew came, the mother was distraught and, I've lost everything. I don't know how I'm going to make it again. This is the end. All that I've worked for all these years. And she was just totally out of it. The next family in the next house, also totally burnt. When the crew approached that family, the mother said, I've lost all the things that I've worked for a number of years. But I am thankful that none of my children are burned, that me and my husband were still alive. And even though it's a sad story, we can always get those things back because we have life. Perception. The reality changes to suit the perception. And our perception gives us the capacity, excuse me, to find the seed of good inside everything. Perception. So, your perception is your reality. It is not what happens that counts. It is how you respond to what happens. That is what matters. Next slide, please. Yes, your perception is your reality. So we had the situation where the torrent of water, one person is scared, the other one uses it to have fun. We're looking at another situation here. And this actually happened. I was there we were out on the sea. And the sailor took up this big turtle, and everybody on the boat was screaming.
And he said, but it's not going to do you anything. Nobody wants to take a picture with it. And everybody was like, not me, not coming near to that. And eventually, one of the awardees, because it was a FASB outing, said, I will come. And she was a little bit timid, but eventually she touched it and realized that it wasn't biting. And she posed for the picture. It is not what happens that counts, it is how you respond to it that matters. Your response, your perception is your reality. So that for some people, they would get a big house and they would complain. Why? Because it's so much cleaning to do. The place is so big, and when it's Christmas, all this cobweb to do and all of that, all this scrubbing and all. And some people would be totally excited to have a big house because it would give them more space and they could entertain and the family could come and look for them. And same house, different perception, different reality. So your perception is your reality. It's not what happens, it's your response to what happens that makes the difference. And remember, we learned about the law of attraction. Where your focus goes, your energy goes. And the energy you put out will attract the same level of energy to you. So that if you perceive the situation in a positive way, then you will give out positive energy and you'll attract more positive energy to yourself. If you perceive of it in a negative way, you'll be giving out negative energy and you'll be attracting more negative energy to yourself. The choice is yours. You choose. And so we move on to these famous words by Wayne Dyer. Change the way you see things, and the things you see will change. He has also said it, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. Yes? And some people may say, but the way I look at it doesn't make it change. If it's a stone, it's a stone. Whether I look at it one way or the other, it's still a stone. Yeah. But if you look at it as a stumbling block, that's your perception. That's the way you look at it. And that's the way you're going to react to it. If you look at it, same stone, but you see a stepping stone, the whole situation changes. The whole situation changes. And we need to be aware of the power of our mind and our thoughts. Remember, perception is also our capacity to find the seed of good inside everything. So we can make it good or make it bad by the way we perceive it. And we know that our perception is colored by our experience. But we can learn because our brain is functioning. And we can learn and we can choose to perceive things differently and to think differently, to imagine differently, so that the tenor of our life, the vibration upon which we function, becomes different. It's a choice we make. The pity is that we're not taught that in school. We're learning it when we get older. So, this is a little test. Number one, the first picture. What do you see? And I know that some people will see a beautiful young woman with a feather in her hair, all decked for a ball. But if you look again, you will see an old woman who has obviously had some hard times because the lines are there on her face. Same picture. Which is it? Is it an old woman? Is it a young woman? We look at the second one in the middle, the second frame. What do you see? And that one is more familiar. So you can either see a vase or a vase, or you can see two faces. Which one is it? It depends on your perception. And the third picture, what do you see there? Are some people seeing a duck? Everybody's not seeing a duck. Some people are seeing a rabbit. Same picture. Is it a duck or is it a rabbit? Your perception is your reality. If you are able to see both pictures within the frame, then it's both and. But if you are only able to see one picture, then telling you that there is another picture, it's either or, because you are only seeing one. Your perception is your reality. So if you see an old woman there and you can't see the young woman, then it's an old woman. That's your reality. For those who can see only the young woman, that's their reality. And understand, in life, that is how you determine your response to things, by what you perceive. And we know that sometimes what we see is an illusion, and sometimes we see one thing, but when we take a second look, we realize it's something else. So we have to be mindful of these things and don't jump to hasty conclusions. Your perception is your reality. Remember that. And be careful how you respond to things, because the thoughts that you have will give off the vibrations that will attract like vibrations, and that determines the path of your life. And I know that we would have spoken about this in earlier lessons, that our past and all that we've experienced affects how we respond and what we do. Yes, it does. But we have mental faculties, super senses that God has blessed us with. And once we become aware of them, then we can use them. There are universal laws. Once we become aware of them, we can follow the law and gain the benefit. So you make the choice as to what your future will be. Okay, so our next slide takes us into a new perspective. You remember that you are a spiritual being having a human experience. Yes, you remember that. And we're going to take a look at the human brain and consider what we have been taught and what we are learning now. So, in the early days, the IQ test was the big thing to decide whether you're bright or not. Intelligence quotient. So if you function highly intellectually, then you were considered an intellectual. You were bright, you were brilliant. But that only occupies the left brain, the left half, right? And it's a particular kind of processing, serial processing. And then as time went on and research, they came to understand that we also have an emotional quotient, that we do have emotional intelligence, and that affects how we learn and behave as well. And they understood that the right brain functions differently from the left brain, because the right brain is parallel processing. So that the mathematicians will go with the serial processing, but the dancers and the musicians and the actors and the painters will go with the parallel processing, because the emotional intelligence is more pronounced. So a few years ago, they started noting that we also have emotional intelligence. But long years ago, before we started on the present, the modern education system, the ancients understood that we also have spiritual intelligence. So there's a spiritual quotient. And the amazing thing is that the spiritual quotient gives synchronous processing. And if you look at the diagram, you'd realize that the spiritual quotient affects the whole brain. It encompasses the intelligence quotient and the emotional quotient. We are spiritual beings. We're having a human experience. But we get so caught up in the human experience that we disconnect from the spiritual being and not recognize that the spiritual quotient is really the biggest and the highest. And that's where our focus should be. So you learn about your 5 physical senses, and they make sure that you learn that very early in life. When do they teach about the super senses, about the mental faculties? They don't teach that in school. The education system ignores that. They started marking you on left brain, get so many right, you're bright. You could recall and write back the answer, you're bright. But the fact that you can think and build, and that was not appreciated. We're getting a little more appreciation now for it, but still not enough. We still haven't reached where we should in terms of understanding the intelligence quotient, the emotional quotient, and the spiritual quotient, which is the bigger one, the more important one, the one that continues forever. Because remember, as a spiritual being, you were spiritual before this physical life started, and you will continue to be spiritual after this physical life has ended. And this is why it's so important to know who you are. And as women of faith, we need to understand what is our relationship with our faith. Do we recognize who we are? Do we love ourselves? Do we understand the capacity that we have? So I want to ask you, once again, these same questions that I asked the last time. Women of faith, do you love your life? Yes, there are ups and downs and tumbles and calamities, but you've come through them and you're stronger for it. Do you love your life? Is this your best life? If you perceive it to be good, it will be good. If you perceive it to be bad, it will be bad. It is how you respond to what happens. It is not what happens. Are you living your dream? Do you even remember that you have a dream? Do you remember your dream? What is your dream? What sets you going? What are you willing to sacrifice all for? What puts a fire in you? You see, we are so concerned about passing the test, getting a job, making some money, building a house, and buying a car. And sometimes we are so unhappy because we are not fulfilling our purpose. We are not engaging in our dream. You have greatness in you. Doesn't matter where you came from, doesn't matter what circumstances, you have greatness in you. You don't want to leave this world with your songs unsung. So, in your faith walk, are you connected to love or are you connected to fear? Now, everyone knows that fear is false evidence appearing real, right? FEAR, false evidence appearing real. And even though we know that, we still get caught up in the fear, even though we have learned that He didn't give us a spirit of fear. We get caught up. And everyone also ought to know that faith is finding answers in the heart. FAITH. Finding answers in the heart. Faith is a heart thing. Love is a heart thing. Stop looking outside and start looking in so that you can make this your best life, so that you can recognize the greatness in you. Because the tragedy in life is not that we die, because we know that once we begin to live, we have to die. So that's not the tragedy. The tragedy is what dies inside of us while we are still alive. That's the tragedy in life. We may be referred to as living dead, because we're just moving around like zombies, follow the leader without that fulfillment of life. And faith is supposed to give you that fulfillment of life. So we've talked about perception, we've talked about love, we always will talk about love. We've talked about life. We've talked about the fact that it's not what matters, what occurs that counts. It's how you respond to what occurs. And that takes us through our presentation, and it's question time. So you are going to put your questions, put your comments, and let's talk. Thank you, my dear, and pleasant evening to you too. Thank you. Beautiful. You have come to love and accept yourself and be happy in yourself. That is the beginning of living. That is the beginning of living. When you understand your worth and you learn to love yourself. You must love you just as you are. Doesn't mean that you can't work on you to make you better, but you must love you just as you are. Because if you can't love yourself, you can't love anyone else. We are told to love God with all and to love ourselves so that we can love our neighbors. Because if we don't love ourselves, we can't love our neighbors. If we don't love ourselves, we're fooling people when we tell them we love them. We have to learn to love ourselves. Remember, look inside. There is greatness in you. He that is in you is greater than he that is in the world. Look inside. We focus too much on the world outside, on the circumstances. Let us focus on, as we would say, when trouble comes, don't focus on the size of the trouble. Focus on the size of your God. Yes, thank you very much. And I'm happy that you're enjoying the life love lessons. Yes. And the whole point is that we must get to that point where we love ourselves enough that we can love our life. And therefore we can share. Remember the poem that we looked at? I will love again the stranger who was myself. Don't be a stranger to yourself. Love yourself. Don't be a stranger to yourself. Give back your heart to itself. And remember that everything is energy. And energy vibrates. Your thoughts are vibrations. And therefore your thoughts are energy. And there are different frequencies. And you want to be always on the highest frequency of love and gratitude. And remember what Paul says. Whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are true, those are the things to think about. Because where your thoughts are, where your focus goes, that's where your energy flows. And you want to keep on the higher vibration of energy, because energy is life. Life is not static. It keeps moving. And we have to learn to move with it. And yes, spiritual things are spiritually discerned, comes to mind. And I am happy for that, because we tend to think that when we say spiritual things, it has to be about religion. But no, it's about us and our relationship with the eternal spirit, the infinite spirit. That's what it is. And that's why we need to know who we are. So when we understand that we are first spirit and then human, we put the priorities in the right place, and spiritual things will be discerned, because we are spiritual beings and we have spiritual senses. We are not just physical beings, and we don't just have physical senses. We need to remember that, right? And remember, we spoke about imagination and memory, right? That our imagination is the image making faculty, right? And the memory is the image recalling faculty, right? And because of that, we can dare to dream. Remember, if the caterpillar stops dreaming, there would be no butterflies. So, you came to this life to make a difference. Your life has purpose. You have greatness in you. You are connected to infinite wisdom. Abundant life is calling you. Don't let the call go to waste. So dream. Dream and dream big. Take it from on the inside. The definition of faith and fear. Yes. So fear is false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. FEAR. And faith is finding answers in the heart. Finding answers in the heart. FAITH. Because when we operate from the heart, and that's why we are told that love is the greatest one, because that's where love comes from. When we function in love, we function from the heart. And that's why when you're told that once it's done in love, it can't be wrong, because love comes from the heart. Love is God. Love is of God. And we need to remember the connection. All right? So there's an innate beauty, an innate abundance within you that is your very life and being. It's a gift of the Spirit of grace. So we wrap up our question time at this time, because we don't want to go over the time. And let me say to you that I hope you enjoyed this lesson as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you, and that you're looking forward to lesson 7, when we take some Bible advice in answering some questions about being women of faith. So let me remind you, as I always do, coming to the end, love yourself. It's the only self you have. Love your life. It's the only life you know. Live abundantly. It's your birthright. Love God. It's your purpose for being here. And as I leave you, I say to you, dare to dream. Dare to dream. The dreams you dare to dream really do come true. So thank you. God bless you, and sweet dreams. Looking forward to being with you again next week. Bye-bye.